Voxara's last flight. In the vast canvas of the cosmos, where stars are born and die in the blink of an eye, there lies a planet, Voxara, a jewel once radiant with life, now a fading echo of its former self. This is the stage upon which our tale unfolds, a prologue to a saga that will traverse the stars. Prologue: Voxara's Requiem. In the year 3000, the planet Voxara spins silently in the void, a testament to the folly of its inhabitants. Its cities, once gleaming with the promise of progress, stand as hollowed husks, their spires reaching for salvation in the cold expanse of space. The air, thick with the dust of desolation, carries the whispers of a civilization on the brink of oblivion. The land, scarred by the greed of generations, bears no fruit, and the waters, sullied by the toxins of industry, hold no sustenance. The Voxarans, a people once proud and fierce, now huddle in the shadows of their crumbling monuments, their eyes cast downward, their spirits broken. Yet, amidst this landscape of despair, a spark of defiance flickers. Eron Valtor, a name that will soon be etched into the annals of the cosmos, stands alone against the dying light. His silhouette, a stark contrast against the backdrop of decay, is a beacon of hope for those who dare to dream of freedom. Eron's gaze is fixed upon the fortress of Draven Mordax, the tyrant whose iron grip has choked the life from Voxara. Within those fortified walls lies the key to salvation, an intergalactic shuttle, the last of its kind, capable of carrying the seeds of Voxara's legacy to new horizons. The night air is charged with anticipation as Eron contemplates the heist that will seal his fate and that of his world. He knows the path ahead is fraught with peril, a gauntlet laid by the most cunning and ruthless adversary he has ever faced. But the fire that burns within him, a fire kindled by the memory of his fallen parents and the suffering of his people, cannot be quenched. As the twin moons of Voxara rise, casting their pale light upon the desolate landscape, Eron takes his first step towards destiny. He will recruit a crew of the most skilled and daring individuals Voxara has ever known. Together, they will embark on a journey that will test the very limits of their courage, their ingenuity, and their will to survive. For this is not just a story of escape, it is a story of rebirth. It is the story of Voxara's last flight, a flight that will soar into the annals of legend, a flight that will whisper to the stars of a planet that refused to die quietly into the night. Chapter 1: Eron Valtor, the Spark of Rebellion. The planet Voxara, once a tapestry of vibrant ecosystems and bustling metropolises, now lay in the grip of a suffocating silence. Its cities, monuments to the ingenuity of its people, stood as mausoleums to a forgotten prosperity. In the heart of what was once the capital, a figure moved through the ruins with purpose: Eron Valtor. Eron's silhouette cut through the dim light of Voxara's twin moons, casting long shadows over the cracked streets. His boots crunched over the debris of a civilization that had cannibalized itself, a testament to the desperation that had driven Voxara to the brink. Yet, in his eyes, there flickered not despair, but a steely resolve. The son of a visionary scientist and a dauntless pilot, Eron had inherited more than their sharp intellect and bravery. He carried within him the weight of their unfulfilled dreams. They had perished in the void, seeking a new dawn for Voxara, leaving Eron with a legacy bathed in starlight and sorrow. Eron's mind was a maelstrom of plans and calculations, each as intricate as the constellations above. He knew that the key to his planet's salvation, or its final descent into chaos, lay in the hands of the tyrant Draven Mordax. The despot hoarded the last intergalactic shuttle, a vessel that could ferry them to new worlds, to hope. As Eron navigated the labyrinthine alleys of the city, he was acutely aware of the eyes that followed him, eyes filled with a mixture of fear and admiration. He had become a symbol of resistance, the ember of rebellion that refused to be extinguished by Mordax's oppressive regime. His destination was a clandestine meeting place, hidden beneath the skeletal remains of the Voxara Historical Society, a fitting venue for the birth of a new chapter in their history. There, he would meet the individuals who would form the backbone of his audacious plan: Lyra Kestis, Nolan Quade, and Tara Blaze Corvix. Each had been touched by Mordax's cruelty, each had skills honed by hardship and loss. Together, they would undertake a heist that would echo through the ages, a daring raid on Mordax's stronghold to reclaim the shuttle and, with it, their future. Eron arrived at the rendezvous, the door sliding open with a hiss that broke the silence like a whisper of promise. The room beyond was bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent fungi, casting an otherworldly hue on the faces of those gathered. Lyra, with her pilot's grace and eyes that had seen the wonders of the galaxy, nodded to Eron with a respect born of shared purpose. Nolan, his gaze as deep as the space he charted, offered a curt nod, his mind already tracing the stars they would navigate. And Tara, her presence as commanding as the weapons she wielded, acknowledged Eron with a fire in her eyes that mirrored his own. They were ready, each carrying the scars of their past as badges of honor. Together, they would forge a new destiny, not just for themselves, but for all Voxara. The spark of rebellion, nurtured by Eron Valtor, was ready to ignite the flames of revolution. And so, beneath the watchful gaze of the moons, as the night whispered secrets of freedom, Eron Valtor and his crew began to weave their tale, a tale of courage, of defiance, of a flight not from fear, but towards hope. Chapter 2. Lyra Kestis, Wings of Freedom. The cosmos is vast and unforgiving, a tapestry of darkness pierced by the light of distant stars. It was here, among the celestial ballet, that Lyra Kestis found her solace, her purpose. Born aboard the starship Aurora, her cradle rocked by the gentle hum of the engines, Lyra's destiny was written in the stardust. Her parents, pioneers of the final frontier, had instilled in her a love for the boundless skies. Lyra's childhood was a mosaic of nebulas and supernovas, her playground the endless corridors of the Aurora. She learned to speak the language of the stars before she could walk, her hands steering the ship with a natural grace that belied her years. But the universe, in all its wonder, is not without its perils. A cosmic storm, fierce and wild, claimed the Aurora and with it, the lives of her beloved parents. Lyra, barely more than a child, watched helplessly as the ship that was her home was torn asunder, her family lost to the void. The tragedy would have broken many, but not Lyra. She emerged from the wreckage with a spirit tempered like the steel of the Aurora's hull. Taken in by a band of space outlaws, she found kinship among the misfits and renegades. They taught her to survive, to fight, and most importantly, to fly. Lyra's reputation grew with every daring escape and reckless maneuver. She became the maverick of the skies, a title earned with every flight that defied death. Her name was whispered in awe across spaceports and pirate dens alike, a legend in her own time. It was this legend that caught Eron Valtor's attention. He sought her out in the dimly lit backroom of a tavern on the fringes of Voxara's space. The air was thick with the smell of engine oil and cheap liquor, but to Eron, it smelled like opportunity. Lyra listened to Eron's plan, her eyes reflecting the flickering lights like twin stars. The idea of stealing Mordax's shuttle, of flying free from the dying planet of Voxara, ignited something within her. It was a chance to honor her parents, to make their dreams of exploration and discovery her own. As Eron spoke of the crew he was assembling, of the roles each would play, Lyra knew she would pilot the shuttle. She would guide them through the stars to freedom, to a new beginning. With a nod that sealed her fate, Lyra Kestis joined the rebellion. The chapter closes with Lyra standing beside Eron, her gaze fixed on the horizon. The stars called to her, as they always had, but this time she would answer with a crew at her back and the hope of a people in her hands. The wings of freedom were unfurled, and Lyra Kestis was ready to soar. Chapter 3. Nolan Quade, the cartographer of the cosmos. In the silent expanse of space, where the stars whisper secrets to those who dare to listen, Nolan Quade was a seeker of truths untold. Born on the fringes of the galaxy, his cradle was a research outpost, a beacon of light in the dark, where his parents, astrophysicists, unraveled the mysteries of the cosmos. Nolan's childhood was a symphony of celestial wonders, his lullabies the cosmic winds that danced through the void. He grew up with his eyes fixed on the heavens, his mind attuned to the ebb and flow of the universe. His parents' teachings were his gospel, and the stars, his congregation. The outpost was a solitary speck amidst the vastness, yet it was here that Nolan's gift flourished. He could chart the courses of comets with a glance, navigate through the mazes of asteroid fields with ease, and predict the paths of planets with a precision that bordered on the prophetic. His talents did not go unnoticed. The Galactic Academy, a citadel of learning that stood at the heart of civilized space, opened its doors to him. Nolan's brilliance shone like a supernova, his theories and calculations challenging the very foundations of astrogation. But brilliance often casts a shadow, and Nolan's light revealed a darkness within the Academy. A conspiracy of silence, where knowledge was a currency traded by those in power for their own ends. Nolan, ever the seeker of truth, exposed the corruption, but at a cost. He was cast out, his name tarnished, his future uncertain. Undeterred, Nolan wandered the galaxy, his skills for hire to those who traveled the roads less taken. His maps became the stuff of legend, guiding explorers and outlaws alike through the treacherous tapestries of space. He was the cartographer of the cosmos, a title earned with each stroke of his pen upon the star charts. It was on a small, nondescript space station that Eron Valtor found him. Nolan was hunched over a map, his fingers tracing the routes of distant worlds, when Eron laid before him a plan that would change the course of history. The heist of Mordax's shuttle was more than a mere escape. It was a voyage to a new destiny. Nolan saw in Eron's eyes a fire that matched his own, a fire for freedom, for discovery, for a new beginning. With a handshake that sealed their fates, Nolan joined the rebellion. As the chapter closes, Nolan stands beside Eron and Lyra, his gaze piercing the veil of the night. The stars above Voxara were calling, their silent song a siren's call to the unknown. Nolan Quade, the cartographer of the cosmos, was ready to chart a course not just through space, but through destiny itself. Chapter 4. Tara Blaze Corvix, the firebrand of Voxara. Amidst the ruins of Voxara, where the whispers of rebellion began to stir the stagnant air, there was one who walked through fire and emerged unscathed, Tara Blaze Corvix. Her story was not written in the ink of scholars, but etched in the scorched earth of battlefields and the smoldering barrels of her twin blasters. Born to a lineage of Voxara's finest security forces, Tara was swaddled in the ethos of duty and valor. Her parents, guardians of peace, were her first instructors in the art of combat. They taught her that a weapon was not just a tool of destruction, but an extension of one's will, a defender of ideals. The coup led by Draven Mordax shattered her world, turning protectors into prey. In a night marred by flames and treachery, Tara lost more than her family. She lost the innocence of youth. But from the ashes of that fateful night, Blaze was born, a moniker earned with each burst of fire from her guns, a testament to her indomitable spirit. Tara's journey was a solitary one, her path lit by the muzzle flashes of her blasters. She became a specter in the shadows of Voxara, a mercenary whose allegiance was to the cause of justice, not to the coin. Her reputation preceded her, tales of her exploits whispered in awe and fear. It was in the underbelly of Voxara's last standing city that Eron Valtor found her. In a den of outcasts and rebels, Tara sat alone, her eyes like embers, her fingers drumming a silent rhythm on the table. Eron approached with a proposition that spoke to the core of her being, a chance to turn the tide against Mordax, to avenge her family, to reclaim her home. As Eron laid out his plan, Tara's mind raced through every outcome, every potential firefight. She saw not just the strategy, but the heart of a leader who could unite them, who could spark the flame of revolution. With a nod that sealed her commitment, Tara Blaze Corvix joined the rebellion. The chapter closes with Tara standing shoulder to shoulder with Eron, Lyra, and Nolan. Her presence was a beacon of defiance, her resolve as unwavering as the steel of her blasters. Together, they stood on the precipice of the unknown, ready to dive into the abyss for a chance at freedom. And so, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, casting long shadows over the rebels, Tara Blaze Corvix readied herself for the battle to come. The fire that burned within her reflected the fire that would soon engulf Voxara, a fire that promised not destruction, but rebirth. Chapter 5: The Heist of the Millennium. As the twin moons of Voxara cast their ghostly glow upon the desolate landscape, the night was alive with a palpable tension. It was a night that would be remembered, a night when the fates of many would pivot on the actions of a few. Eron Valtor and his crew stood at the threshold of history, ready to embark on the heist of the millennium. The stronghold of Draven Mordax loomed before them, a monolith of oppression that had suffocated the hope of Voxara's people. Its walls, impenetrable to the cries of the suffering, were a challenge to the rebels, a challenge they were determined to meet. Eron led the way, his mind a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. Beside him, Lyra's hands itched for the controls of a ship, her eyes scanning the skies for the path they would soon carve through the stars. Nolan's gaze was fixed on the celestial map etched in his memory, plotting their course to freedom. And Tara, her fingers resting on the hilts of her blasters, was a coiled spring, ready to unleash hell upon anyone who stood in their way. They moved through the shadows, a dance of darkness and silence, each step measured, each breath a whisper. The stronghold's defenses were formidable, laser grids that could slice a man in two, sentry bots with unerring aim, and surveillance systems that left no corner unseen. But the rebels were not without their own tricks. Eron's engineering prowess turned obstacles into opportunities, disabling traps and rerouting power. Lyra's agility saw them through the tightest of spaces, her every movement a testament to her skill. Nolan's knowledge of the stronghold's layout, gleaned from stolen schematics, guided them through the labyrinthine corridors. And Tara, her aim true and her reflexes lightning fast, provided cover for the crew, her blasters singing songs of defiance. The shuttle bay doors stood before them, a gateway to the stars and to their salvation. It was here that they encountered their greatest challenge, a security system that was a masterpiece of complexity, a final test of their resolve. With steady hands and a steely gaze, Eron set to work, his tools a symphony of sparks and beeps. The crew stood guard, a circle of trust and strength, as the seconds ticked by. And then, with a triumphant click, the doors slid open, revealing the shuttle that would carry them to new worlds. The crew wasted no time. Lyra leapt into the pilot's seat, her hands flying over the controls as the engines roared to life. Nolan plotted their course, his eyes alight with the fire of adventure. Tara secured the bay, her blasters at the ready for the inevitable pursuit. As the shuttle lifted off, the stronghold erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and Mordax's forces scrambled to respond. But it was too late. The rebels were airborne, the shuttle a streak of silver against the night sky. The chapter closes with the shuttle breaking through the atmosphere, Voxara shrinking beneath them. Eron looked back at his home, a mix of sorrow and hope in his heart. They had done it. They had stolen the shuttle, outwitted Mordax, and taken the first step toward a future they could only dare to dream of. And as the stars welcomed them with open arms, the crew of rebels knew that their journey had only just begun. They were fugitives, outlaws, heroes, bound together by a shared destiny and a thirst for freedom. The heist of the millennium was complete, but their story was far from over. Chapter 6: The Great Escape. The shuttle, a beacon of defiance against the tyranny of Draven Mordax, pierced the atmosphere of Voxara, leaving behind a world that had become a prison. Inside, Eron Valtor and his crew clung to the hope that beyond the stars lay their salvation. Lyra Kestis, the ace pilot whose hands were now one with the shuttle's controls, navigated the vessel with the finesse of a dancer. Her eyes were locked on the vastness ahead, her heart racing with the thrill of the chase. She had flown through storms of asteroids and skimmed the surfaces of black holes, but this flight, this escape, was her magnum opus. Beside her, Nolan Quade, the cartographer whose maps had charted the unknown, plotted a course through the stars. His fingers danced across the navigation console, tracing routes that weaved between cosmic dangers. The galaxy was a puzzle, and he held the key to its secrets. Behind them, Tara Blaze Corvix stood watchful, her eyes scanning the monitors for any sign of pursuit. Her blasters, still warm from the skirmish in the shuttle bay, were ready to speak again should Mordax's forces dare to follow. She was the guardian of their flight, the fiery shield against the darkness. As the shuttle hurtled through space, the alarms began to wail. Mordax's forces, relentless in their pursuit, had launched a fleet of fighters to recapture the rebels. The skies of Voxara were alive with the light of engines and the thunder of cannons. Lyra's hands flew to the evasive maneuvers, her mind one step ahead of their pursuers. The shuttle weaved through the barrage of fire, each move a testament to Lyra's unparalleled skill. Beside her, Nolan's voice was calm, a steady presence amidst the chaos as he guided her through the safest paths. Eron, the leader whose vision had brought them to this moment, watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and fear. His crew, his friends, were a symphony of talent and courage, each playing their part in this desperate flight. The shuttle dove into an asteroid field, the rocky giants a maze of potential doom. Lyra's piloting was a thing of beauty, each twist and turn a brushstroke on the canvas of space. Nolan's navigation was flawless, his predictions of the asteroids' paths guiding them through the gauntlet. Tara's aim was true as she took control of the shuttle's defenses, her shots finding their marks with deadly precision. The Voxaran fighters, unable to match the rebels' skill, were left floundering in their wake. As they cleared the asteroid field, the vastness of space opened before them. The fighters had fallen behind, lost amidst the rocks and debris. The crew of the shuttle allowed themselves a moment of respite, a brief pause in the relentless tension of their escape. The chapter closes with the shuttle disappearing into the depths of space, a speck of light against the infinite dark. Eron Valtor and his crew had done the impossible. They had escaped Voxara. But their journey was far from over. Ahead lay the unknown, a galaxy of dangers and wonders, of allies and enemies. Their story was just beginning, and the stars were waiting to see what tales they would tell. Chapter 7: Draven Mordax, the Ruthless Ruler. In the heart of Voxara's stronghold, where the walls whispered of power and the air was heavy with the scent of control, sat Draven Mordax upon his throne of iron and ambition. His gaze was as cold as the space between stars, his mind a fortress impenetrable by doubt or fear. Mordax was not born to the throne. He had seized it with a cunning as sharp as the blade of his ceremonial sword. His rise to power was a tale of strategy and strength, a path paved with the ambitions of a man who believed destiny was not a matter of chance, but of choice. The son of military strategists, Mordax was raised in the shadow of Voxara's elite. He learned early that in the game of power, it was not the strongest who survived, but the most ruthless. His parents' teachings were etched into his soul, a blueprint for domination that he followed with religious fervor. As resources dwindled and Voxara's leaders grew desperate, Mordax saw his opportunity. He struck swiftly, toppling the council and declaring himself the supreme leader. His rule was ironclad, his will unyielding. He hoarded the remaining resources, not out of greed, but out of a belief that he was Voxara's savior, its only hope in a universe that cared not for the weak. But on this night, as the stars bore witness to his failure, Mordax's composure was a mask that hid the fury raging within. The shuttle, his shuttle, had been stolen from under his very nose. Eron Valtor, the son of the very scientists he had once respected, had outsmarted him. The stronghold was in disarray, the alarms a cacophony that mocked his rule. His generals, once confident and imposing, now stood before him with shoulders hunched, their eyes unable to meet his. They spoke of the rebels' cunning, of their skill and their daring. But Mordax heard only excuses. With a voice that cut through the chaos like a scythe, Mordax issued his commands. His fleet, a testament to Voxara's technological might, would pursue the rebels. He would not rest until the shuttle was reclaimed and those who had defied him were brought to justice. As the fleet launched into the darkness, Mordax stood alone in his command center, the screens before him alive with the pursuit. His mind worked furiously, calculating, plotting. He would not be made a fool of. He would not allow his vision for Voxara to be thwarted by a band of traitors. The chapter closes with Mordax's silhouette against the backdrop of space, his eyes reflecting the light of distant explosions. The chase was on, and he would lead it. For Draven Mordax was not just a ruler. He was the embodiment of Voxara's indomitable will, and he would see his planet's destiny fulfilled, no matter the cost. Chapter 8. The Pursuit. The cosmos, a vast ocean of darkness dotted with islands of light, was the stage upon which the great pursuit unfolded. The shuttle, carrying Eron Valtor and his crew, was a comet streaking across the void, its tail the lingering hope of a free Voxara. Behind them, the fleet of Draven Mordax, a swarm of metallic predators, hungered for their return. The chase was a symphony of strategy and will, a dance between the hunter and the hunted. Mordax's ships, armed to the teeth and relentless in their pursuit, were a testament to his obsession with control. But the rebels were not without their own resolve, their determination fueled by the very freedom that Mordax sought to crush. Lyra Kestis, her hands steady at the helm, piloted the shuttle with a grace that belied the pressure of the chase. She wove through the tapestry of space as if she were threading a needle, her maneuvers a blur of precision and daring. Beside her, Nolan Quade's voice was a calm constant, his instructions painting a path of survival amidst the chaos. Tara Blaze Corvix, her eyes alight with the fire of battle, took control of the shuttle's defenses. Her shots rang out like the drums of war, each blast a defiance of the fate Mordax had decreed for them. She was the shield of the crew, her resolve as unbreakable as the bonds that held them together. Eron Valtor, the architect of their escape, watched the pursuit unfold with the leader's eye. His mind raced with plans and contingencies, his faith in his crew unwavering. He knew the stakes were high, the risk of capture a shadow that loomed over them. But he also knew that the spirit of Voxara, the spirit of rebellion, was a flame that could not be extinguished. The pursuit led them through the heart of a nebula, where the dust of creation hung thick in the air. The colors, a palette of cosmic beauty, were a backdrop to the deadly game of cat and mouse. Mordax's fleet, unaccustomed to the treacherous terrain, faltered, their formations breaking amidst the swirling clouds. It was here, in the eye of the nebula, that the rebels made their stand. With a plan as bold as the stars themselves, they turned to face their pursuers. The shuttle's engines roared as they charged the fleet, a spear of light against the darkness. The ensuing battle was a maelstrom of light and sound, a clash of Voxaran steel and rebel courage. Tara's blasters sang a song of freedom, her aim true as she picked off the enemy ships one by one. Lyra's piloting was a dance of death, the shuttle spinning and diving through the barrage of fire. And then, with a final act of defiance, the shuttle burst forth from the nebula, leaving the disoriented fleet behind. Mordax's ships, their sensors clouded by the dust, could only watch as the rebels slipped away into the vastness of space. The chapter closes with the shuttle disappearing into the void, a fleeting shadow against the canvas of the universe. Eron Valtor and his crew had evaded capture, their spirits unbroken, their wills unbound. The pursuit was over, but their journey was far from finished. Ahead lay new challenges, new worlds, and the uncharted waters of their destiny. Chapter 9: New Alliances. Beyond the nebula's veil, where the pursuit had ended in a tempest of light and shadow, the shuttle carrying Eron Valtor and his crew sailed into the uncharted. The galaxy stretched out before them, a canvas of possibility painted with the hues of distant suns and enigmatic worlds. The crew, though weary from their escape, were alive with the adrenaline of survival. Their eyes were alighted with the stars' reflection, their hearts buoyed by the promise of new beginnings. They were no longer just fugitives. They were pioneers on the frontier of a new chapter in Voxara's history. Lyra Kestis, the maverick pilot whose hands had steered them through the storm, now navigated the shuttle through calmer skies. Her gaze was set on the horizon, where the unknown beckoned with a siren's call. Beside her, Nolan Quade, the cartographer of the cosmos, plotted their course with a steady hand, his mind weaving through the tapestry of celestial bodies. Tara Blaze Corvix, the firebrand whose blasters had sung songs of defiance, stood vigilant. Her eyes scanned the vastness for signs of life, for signals of civilizations that might lie hidden among the stars. She was ready to defend, to protect, but also to reach out in camaraderie to those they might encounter. Eron Valtor, the architect of their odyssey, watched his crew with a leader's pride. His thoughts turned to alliances, to the bonds they would need to forge in the galaxy's expanse. Voxara needed allies, and they would be the emissaries to kindle those flames of friendship. As they journeyed, the shuttle's sensors picked up a distress signal, a beacon of urgency that pulsed through the silence. Eron gave the order, and Lyra steered them toward the source, a planet lush with verdant forests and azure oceans, a jewel amidst the darkness. They landed near the signal's origin, in a clearing bordered by towering trees whose leaves whispered secrets. The planet's inhabitants, a race of beings both strange and familiar, greeted them with cautious curiosity. Their language was a melody of clicks and tones, their expressions open and earnest. Nolan, with his translator device, bridged the gap of understanding. The planet's people spoke of a plight that mirrored Voxara's, a tyrant who sought to drain their world of its life. In their eyes, Eron saw the same spark that had ignited Voxara's rebellion, the same desire for freedom that burned within his own heart. An alliance was forged in that clearing, a pact of mutual aid and shared destiny. The planet's people, skilled in the art of healing and horticulture, offered their knowledge in exchange for the promise of aid against their oppressor. Tara, with her tactical acumen, began to train them, to prepare them for the struggle ahead. The chapter closes with the shuttle ascending once more into the sky, leaving behind a world now kindled with the fire of resistance. Eron Valtor and his crew had found more than allies. They had found kindred spirits, a reminder that the fight for freedom was a universal song that resonated across the galaxy. Chapter 10: Voxara's Last Stand. The galaxy, a tapestry of light and shadow, watched in silent anticipation as the shuttle, now a harbinger of revolution, charted its course back to Voxara. Eron Valtor and his crew, their spirits tempered by trials and their resolve steeled by newfound alliances, prepared for the final act of their odyssey. Voxara loomed ahead, a world on the precipice of change. The once desolate planet, now a beacon of rebellion, pulsed with the energy of a people ready to reclaim their destiny. Draven Mordax, the tyrant whose grip on Voxara was slipping, awaited their return with a fury that burned like the core of a dying star. Lyra Kestis, her hands poised over the controls, guided the shuttle through Voxara's atmosphere with the precision of a master artist. Her eyes, reflecting the fiery descent, were focused and clear. Beside her, Nolan Quade, the navigator whose charts had led them through the stars, plotted their path to the stronghold where Mordax awaited. Tara Blaze Corvix, her weapons at the ready, stood as the embodiment of their defiance. She was the guardian of their cause, her aim as true as the ideals they fought for. Her blasters, ready to speak the language of revolution, were a promise of the battle to come. Eron, the leader whose vision had sparked the flame of rebellion, stood resolute. His gaze swept over Voxara, the home he had left behind, now the stage for their final stand. He knew the cost of what was to come, the sacrifices that would be made, but the fire of freedom that burned within him could not be quenched. The shuttle landed amidst the ruins of the capital, where the rebels had gathered, their faces etched with the determination of those who have nothing left to lose. They greeted their returning heroes with cheers that echoed through the broken spires, a chorus of hope amidst the silence of oppression. The battle for Voxara was a maelstrom of fire and fury. Mordax's forces, loyal to the end, clashed with the rebels in a cacophony of blaster fire and the clash of steel. Lyra's piloting skills turned the tide, her maneuvers bringing the shuttle's weapons to bear against the stronghold's defenses. Nolan's strategies, honed by a lifetime of study, guided the rebels through the chaos, his voice a beacon amidst the storm. Tara's blasters roared, each shot a declaration of their right to live free, her presence inspiring the rebels to fight with a ferocity that matched her own. And Eron, at the heart of the battle, fought not just with weapons but with words. His speech, broadcasted across Voxara, was a rallying cry that united the people, a call to stand against the darkness that had enveloped their world. As the stronghold fell and Mordax was captured, the people of Voxara emerged from the shadows. They stood amidst the ruins, their eyes lifted to the skies, their hearts filled with the promise of a new dawn. The chapter closes with the rebels victorious, the tyranny of Mordax ended. Eron Valtor and his crew, their names forever etched in the annals of Voxara's history, looked to the horizon. Their journey had been one of fire and stars, of darkness and light. They had fought for freedom, for a future, and as the sun rose over Voxara, they knew that their legacy would be the foundation upon which a new world would be built. Epilogue: Dawn of the New Voxara. As the first light of dawn caressed the horizon of Voxara, a hush fell over the world. The battle had ended, the stronghold of tyranny had crumbled, and the people stood amidst the ruins, their faces bathed in the gentle glow of a new beginning. The shuttle, once a mere vessel of escape, now stood as a monument to their victory. Around it, the rebels, no, the liberators, gathered, their eyes reflecting the dawn's light, their hearts heavy with the cost of their freedom, yet light with the promise of the future. Eron Valtor, the spark of the rebellion, the architect of freedom, watched as Voxara awoke from its long nightmare. Beside him, Lyra Kestis, Nolan Quade, and Tara Blaze Corvix shared silent glances, a language of camaraderie that needed no words. They had become more than a crew. They were the harbingers of Voxara's rebirth. The people of Voxara, once shackled by fear, now stepped forward with a tentative hope. They gathered around their heroes, their voices a murmur that grew into a chorus of gratitude and awe. Eron spoke to them, not as a leader, but as a fellow Voxaran, his words a balm to their weary souls. He spoke of the alliances they had forged among the stars, of the knowledge and aid that would flow to Voxara from worlds beyond their own. He spoke of a future where Voxara would not just survive, but thrive, a jewel of the galaxy once more. As the sun rose higher, its rays touching the broken spires and illuminating the faces of the crowd, a transformation began. The ruins became not a symbol of their despair, but the foundation upon which they would build. Each broken stone, each scorched mark was a testament to their resilience, a piece of the mosaic of their new world. The epilogue closes with the shuttle, taking to the skies once more, its mission no longer one of escape, but of exploration and connection. Eron, Lyra, Nolan, and Tara looked back at Voxara, their home, a small, in the vastness of space, and smiled. For they knew that the legacy of their struggle was not just the freedom they had won, but the stories that would be told. Stories of the night Voxara's children took back their world, of the dawn that followed, and of the endless possibilities that awaited them among the stars. And so, as the shuttle disappeared into the cosmos, Voxara turned its face to the sun, its people united, its future unwritten but bright with hope. The dawn of the new Voxara had come, and with it, the dawn of a new era. This story is written by Parshram Naik using Microsoft Copilot for B2Q Innovations. For more technical content, please subscribe our channel B2Q Innovations.